Who you with?
Live with you from Media Campus West, the Reese Show. Reese Talkcast is here, and we have a very special guest today. This young woman will teach you how to self-publish your book, get it in stores, get you selling, get people reading your book, and have it done the professional and correct way. I'm talking about ISBN numbers and everything. We have Christina Kaye right here, book boss lady. What's going on? How you feeling today?
I'm feeling fine, other than tech stuff, when it comes to tech.
We had some technical issues.
I don't know about the young lady part.
We're here now.
I know, we're here now. And I don't know so much about the young lady part, but I appreciate it. I'll be 45 in a couple of weeks, but I am doing just fine.
Hey, listen, anything under 114 is young to me. There we go. Let's go ahead and jump right into it because people are excited about this conversation. We have so many people out here that are kind of learning their niches. They are masters in their own success as well as their own industry, and they want other people to know about it. And now when you have so many people that are able to teach in so many platforms, we see how huge you are on TikTok. People want to write books now. They want something tangible that others can hold on to, and you're helping them find their way.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, there's an old statistic. We've not gotten a new one since then, but there's a New York Times statistic from about 10 years ago that said 81% of Americans want to write a book and only 2% of them ever do.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's 10 years ago, before pre-COVID, pre all this. So I would guess it's higher than that, but
I would say it's about 170% now. With COVID, everybody is doing something with COVID. I can imagine how considerably your business went up during COVID because people probably wanted to find this information. Everybody became a social media guru, but you actually know what you're talking about and know what you're doing.
I do. I've been doing this I've been in the industry for 15 years, and I've been coaching and book editing for 12 years, long before it was cool to be a coach.
Right. So let's talk about history. What made you, let's start from the very beginning. When did you fall in love with literacy and books, and then what made you want to write your own?
It's so great. I love this question because I'm not your typical book person, because I actually did not grow up with a desire to be an author. I loved writing. I loved creative writing, and looking back retrospectively, it makes sense. But at the time I was going to Broadway, daggone it, that was where I was headed.
Oh, you wanted to be on stage. Yeah. So are you a singer too?
Was a singer.
Okay. So you can actually hit some notes.
To showers and vehicles only, but yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So but I wasn't. I didn't dream of that, but I did enjoy creative writing, and I wrote short stories and whatever. But about halfway through my quote unquote real career, I was in the legal field. And about halfway through that, I got asked to write it.
Uh-oh. Well, we just got kicked. She has had a little technical issue, but she'll be right back with us. And let's get it back going.
You should write a book. You should write a book. This is, and I thought, okay, challenge accepted. And so I did. And it was awful. And it flopped. And
wait. We have to slow that down.
Okay.
What constitutes as awful? Because some people's trash is another person's treasure. So talk to me about that.
I guess I should say the experience was awful.
Okay.
The story was fine. And to this day, if I had time, I'd probably try it again if I had the time. But it was awful in the fact that I made the number one mistake that I want everybody to know right now is what you cannot do. But everybody does, which is I have a book idea. I want to write books or I want to be an author. So let me just dive right in and start typing.
Okay.
That'll never work. And it didn't work for me either because, well, it doesn't work. And so because I was a good writer, I had a great grasp of the English language. So I thought this will be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. No, because you have to learn, like any craft, any art form, you have to perfect it. You have to hone it. You have to really practice it. And I didn't know that in the beginning. So I did. I spent about a year kind of pivoting and learning everything I could about the craft of writing and the art of storytelling. Wrote another book, which then got me an agent and a publishing deal and all of that. So that's kind of how that whole roller coaster ride started.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you slowed that down because people needed to hear that part where we think we have a grasp of the English language. We know grammar. I know where to put commas, but that doesn't mean I understand book writing, formatting, and the tactics that go into it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
how did you start to learn those things to be a
So,
published writer? Because you're a published writer, and a lot of people have those aspirations as well.
well, I used to be. I should clarify that I was traditionally published, meaning I had an agent and the whole
Mm-hmm.
publishing deals until about book 6 or 7. I jumped ship and became an indie author and now kind
Okay.
of live in that world.
Right. We're
Um,
going to talk about
and
that
we'll
too and
talk,
what made
yep,
you transition, but
yep.
how did you get to the point? What were some of the things you learned? And I know you teach a class on this. We're not going to give everything for free,
No,
but the
no,
people
no.
need to
I'm
know
going to
some
give you the
things.
glossy. Yeah. So, in a nutshell, because this was 15 years ago or more, there wasn't TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
there was YouTube was there, but that was about it. There were no podcasts really. So
Yeah.
I literally just read some of the big books. I followed Stephen King. I read On Writing, which
Mm.
every author should have on their shelf. On Writing by Stephen King. And I just devoured what I had access to, which was mostly books, some articles online that were available at the time. And I just devoured everything I could. And more than that, the best way to learn, honestly, is to read and read it from a studying eye. Don't just read for leisure. Pay attention
Mm.
to, I'll even show you an example. This is a book I highly enjoyed, but there's a book here that this is an example of a book I studied. So I tacked any notes that I thought, hey, that's a great turn of phrase, or hey, I like
Okay.
how she does that scene. So that helps more than anything is studying
Okay.
the greats.
That makes plenty of sense. So you have to study your craft. We say that a lot here in the broadcast world with any interns that we have with people to come. You got to study what's going on so you know where you want to go and where you don't want to go.
Right.
Even some things that are successful, you may not want to go that path that they're going on. Right. That makes
True.
a whole lot of sense. So you study, you get into these books, you start reading and then writing your notes, and then you start to dive and delve into your own books. You go 6 books into with your agent and go on the publishing route.
Mm-hmm.
How is that route working with the publisher? Because I can imagine it'd be kind of like an artist, a musician working with the label where you have your creative ideas, but then they may have some input too.
Absolutely the same. And and it's the reason that I quote unquote jumped ship to indie eventually. Now, when I first started, indie was very taboo. It still kind of is, shouldn't be, but it still kind of has that stigma. But it was very confining in one way, and then in another way, they actually even kind of talked me into writing a book that I didn't even want to write.
Mm.
So in that sense, I know I hear artists and musicians have similar situations where that happens. They're like, this isn't me. Like, you hear about Pink, and that's just for years was not her gig. That's not
Right.
what she wanted to be doing. It was very similar to that. That was my experience.
So what were you trying to write about, and where were they trying to steer you? And I don't want to take you down. I don't want to give you PTSD on this interview.
It's not all that. It's okay. No, and actually, I do give respect to that publishing company because they did give me a start. So it's not all traumatizing. It actually was a decent experience. It wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't for me. And so basically, I love crime fiction. I love all things crime. I'm addicted to it. I watch crime TV shows.
Hmm.
I just devour it, and that's what I wanted to write.
Okay.
They wanted me to write more romantic suspense because at the time, romance still is just really popular.
Okay.
Um, and they talked me into writing a book that I just was kind of kidding about on a call one day. And they're like, "Oh,
Hmm.
you should write it. Oh, yes, write that. Give it to us in 8 weeks, and we'll put." And it did well. It just
Hmm.
wasn't.
Was it your passion?
No,
I
no.
understand. All right. So writing was still your passion, but that particular genre wasn't it for you?
Right, exactly. And that's an
Okay.
important takeaway that I would want your listeners, whether they're writing fiction or nonfiction, that is a
Hmm.
very important thing to hold on to before you even begin down that journey is you have to find out where you want to be. Like, what is your passion? What do you really want to write about?
Yes, I
Not that you're
understand.
constricted to that for the rest of your life, but you're going to be there for a while. So,
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense. Thank you for that, Jim. I'm gonna take a quick second to hit this bell. You gave us about 5 bell moments, but I've learned because I have to listen to my management. They tell me stop hitting the bell while people are talking. So I'm not doing that.
Fair
So
enough.
we wanted to give you the bell. So with
Thanks.
the agent, is your agent in a way during this time, are they fighting for your rights? Do they do that? Or are they saying, hey, they want you to do this for the money. Let's go ahead and do this for the money. And then the second book, you do what you want to do.
No, it pretty much stays there. The agents are in the pockets of the publishers. I mean, that's just honestly my view on it. They represent the authors, but they're paid by the publishing companies, and they get their deals through the publishing companies. So the author's wishes on a surface level are discussed and what's the word I'm looking for, are considered, but they really aren't. And there are so many things which we can get into that for me was just not worth staying in traditional publishing.
Right. So you go through your 6-book journey. Did you have to stay down that path, or were you able to get a little more wiggle room with your creative content before you switched to indie?
I was able to stay. The one book is the only one that I felt kind of pressured to write that came out. So it was actually 5 books. It was my 6th book that I jumped ship with. But on the 5th book, all 5 except for 1 were really exactly what I wanted to write. My issue was feeling constrained in that knowing that they had rights to the story that I had written and put all of my energy and thoughts and my heart and my soul into. But that company, that multi-million-dollar company, owned my book. I didn't for a period of 5 to 7 years, and that's standard.
I understand. So 5 to 7 years standard. So you write the book, they publish it, they put it out, they help market it, promote it, get it out to the people, but your heart and soul is in there, or none of that's true. What part of that is true?
They don't do any marketing.
Okay. Talk to me.
So there's a misconception with traditional publishing that, gosh, if I could get a traditional publisher and an agent, I'd be set, because they're going to put me on billboards and they're going to put me up, in the parking lot. And no, the only time they're ever going to put any money behind a brand new debut author is if that book just happens to hit the trends at that moment and they see it making them multi-million-dollar figures. Then they might put a little bit of advertising money, like a trailer or a couple posts on Amazon or something, but that's about it. All authors are responsible for all their marketing always.
So even when I have a publisher out there, if you're an author, you have a publisher, you get a big agency, a big company to do it, firm to do it, you still need to make sure that you have some marketing dollars and some ideas to get your creation out there.
Maybe not dollars. The way that I teach and coach my clients to market themselves, it doesn't cost anything.
See, that's why you are the book boss lady. All right, let's jump ship now. You've been with the majors and now you went independent because you saw some things that you liked, that you knew the game a little more. You've been down the road and now you can do it yourself. The first book that you say, you know what, I'm going to do this myself. Walk me through this journey.
Okay, so there's not a whole big difference in the front end of writing a book for yourself that you're going to self-publish versus one you're going to write and then try for a publisher. There's not much difference. You still write the book the same way, and you still should begin marketing from the day you start page 1 because of the way that the world is now. And again, that doesn't really cost anything other than a subscription to this for $20 a month or whatever, but we're not talking ad dollars.
Right.
That's not required. But it does take more work. It is on the author's end a little more work in a different way. There's still work trying to seek an agent and seek a publishing deal and all that. It's just a different kind of work. Now you're taking your energy and instead of focusing it on trying to find that agent and getting that book deal and all those things, and you only have a less than 3% chance to do that in the first place, then instead you're putting all your energy and all your eggs in the basket of putting your own book out and learning everything you can about how that process works, which it's not easy. The first time around, it's not without help.
Okay. Now I went through this journey totally self-taught. I know I bumped my head a few different times. We have a book called Ice the Bully book series. It's a children's book and it's illustration, which I know is a little bit different as well. I had to find out how to do ISBN. I had to find out how to get it on these platforms on Amazon. We do click to ship because it didn't make sense for us to hold a bunch of books and print a bunch for no reason. And then on my side, because I do voiceover work, I was doing reading for people. I was reading for people. I was doing narration for people for audiobooks. And I was trying to figure out, well, how do I do it for my book? So I had to learn all these things. Can you give us not the step-by-step process? Because once again, I know this is your business, but can you kind of give people an idea of some of the things they need to, some of the checks they need to, check off, some of the boxes they need to do?
Absolutely. As I mentioned a minute ago, as one of the most important things when it comes to preparing for that book launch and a marketing plan, the biggest mistake that almost all authors make is they focus on writing the book and then they plan on publishing it a few weeks later and try to hustle and put together a marketing plan in that little short time period. That won't work. Okay. You need 2 to 3 months minimum to build the kind of audience that you really need. So my first piece of advice is start the day you start writing your book, start building a plan and a strategy for how you're going to launch it, what launch week is going to look like, and beyond. And start building your audience. That's the first most important step.
Okay. All right.
So, and it's also important, as I mentioned a minute ago, to know your passion, what you want to write, what kind of books you want to write, because it is true that you can't not that you can't, it's not effective to write one book that's a mystery, and then the next book is a hot, steamy romance, and then the third book is a historical. That's going to confuse your audience. So you do want to know under your brand where you want to at least spend some time for a while and get to know that audience. And I'm sure you have to deal with that in your world too. You have to know who your audience is to draw them in and get them to pay attention and put their eyeballs on you and your work.
Well, yeah, I don't want to start talking to you about plane aviation. Right.
Definitely not.
Absolutely. Oh, so some very key things. Make sure if you have a genre that you're going to go with, and that kind of relates to music as well. You don't want to come out as a country music singer and then drop a pop album next. You got to kind of ease your way into it if you're going to go that way.
Yeah, or create a different brand a while later and do it under that brand or different identity. Absolutely. It's not there. There's always so many black and white things in the publishing industry. It's all this or all that. I live in a gray world. So in my opinion, it's not that you can never write any other genres, just not for a while and not under that brand. Spend some time getting to develop that brand. Yeah. Then if you want to write, go from mysteries, for example, to love stories or whatever. Do it a few years later, create a different website, create a different brand, and that's fine. You can do that, just not under the same brand.
In my personal life, my love stories are mysteries anyway, so I understand.
And there you go.
I get the transition. Talk to me about these different genres that you've kind of been entwined with, and just say if somebody wants to write a how-to or a cookbook or something, are we looking kind of at the same, I guess, method to the madness?
It's really actually very similar. In fact, I have, of my current coaching clients, 2 of them are nonfiction authors. One's writing holistic women's health something, and the other's writing a food book. It's really very similar. I only have to fine tune it just a little bit. The audience is obviously different, but the way that we find the audience and the way that we develop and hook the audience is completely the same. The steps that you take are exactly the same.
That's amazing. And I know a lot of people are diving in. They're probably going on your website right now to check it out. Could you give us your website?
bookbossacademy.com.
That's it. That's why I keep calling her the book boss lady. Let's talk about this journey with teaching people. How is that for you, teaching the gems that you've learned to others and seeing their creations blossom?
At the lack of sounding cliche and cheesy, I love it. It's my passion. It's why I walked away from a 22-year stable career with 401k and dental and all that, 5 weeks paid vacation, because I truly love what I do. And it's what you just said. It's watching. Whereas when I was in traditional publishing, when I was in that space, it seemed like all I ever saw was heartbreak and authors getting rejected and people feeling like they need to give up because I'm not good enough. Then when I move into indie publishing, it's a totally different world. It's while there is some struggle and there is some frustration, that's there in wherever you go, but there's so much more accomplishment. There's more feeling of ownership. There's more feeling of accomplishment, ownership, and achievement. That they've actually been able to do what traditional publishers or agents may have told them they weren't good at or weren't ready for or whatever. Right. So I love it.
I could totally understand that, because when you try to get into somebody else's door, they can close it. When you're building your own, of course, you got to go buy the nails, you got to buy the door, you got to get the wood, you got to cut it. But once it's done, you have the keys to it.
I love that. That's
you can use it. I'm
I'm
putting the
gonna.
money.
I'll write you, but I'm gonna use it.
There we go. I'm actually diving into that now, trying to write a book. Well, not trying to writing a book for how to get people to build their own chicken coops, right? And I can see there's something I like to do, and it's something I want to share with other people. And I can see how other publishers or another agency may say, "Well, you do radio. I don't think you should write this type of book."
Yeah, or if they think it for their market, it's not trending right now,
Mm-hmm.
or there's not a big enough. If it's not going to make them multiple 7, 8 figures, they're not interested.
Mm.
And that's so unfair and so untrue because take, for example, if I wrote a sparkly vampire book,
Okay.
I'm just saying right now,
Right.
there's no way in a million years that TradPub or agents would even consider touching that.
Right.
However, you could easily take that over into the indie world, publish it, and make $100,000
Let's talk
because
about
there's a
margins then.
market for everything.
Right. I would love to talk about margins. Let's say you have those same numbers with a tripub, as you're saying. I just learned that from you. Thank you
Yeah,
for teaching me
TradPub.
something new. Right. Traditional publishing company or an indie company. Tell me what those numbers would look like, vice versa. So you say you write a book and you publish it, you make $100,000 off of this book, right? What would be the numbers on an independent publishing that you would have to move? What do the units look like?
I'm not sure what you mean by what it looks like. I will tell you this. I will say that in the since 2020, not only have indie authors they have begun outselling in gross revenue and units sold. We have begun outselling our traditional counterparts. So there's one statistic. I don't know the exact figures on that, but I know that there are very, very many supporting figures for that. The other thing is there are more authors in a recent study done by Written Word Media. There are more indie authors making $100,000 or more than traditional counterparts doing the same thing. In fact, they
Right.
were less than 1%.
Okay. Because I understand with the traditional publishing company, they would take their money first.
Big time. They take,
Okay.
let's say you have a $12 book for even figures, it's like usually $12.99 for paperback right
Okay.
now. So let's say you have a $12 book. They're going to take anywhere from 70, if you're lucky, to 80% off the top of every dollar you earn.
Okay.
Then that couple dollars that's left before that's deposited in your account every 6 months or so, 3 to 6 months, the literary agent will then take their 15% off of what's left. So you get about $1.20 off every paperback you sell.
Right.
However, in indie publishing, we're keeping anywhere from 40, 60, upwards of 90% of every book that we sell.
Right. Depending on how you distribute it.
Yes, exactly. Print on demand through Amazon KDP, you're looking at, depending on which fee split you choose with them, you're looking at keeping 40 to 60%. If you get to a point, which should be the goal, where you're selling them from your own website using like an e-commerce site or something, there you're talking 90% or more, keeping almost every dollar you make, short of any expenses you have.
Let me push the button. I like the button.
I like your button. That's awesome.
I love the button. I love these margins too. And I appreciate you sharing those with the people. Let's get your website one more time so everybody can know where to follow you at. And then tell me, then we have to talk about social media because you're the queen of boss booking on TikTok. So let's talk about that too. But to give them the website again.
Bookbossacademy.com. Everything.
All right. Now you dive into TikTok. Tell me about your first experiences when a video went kind of quote unquote viral, and then what was that like for you, and then what was the feedback?
It's so funny. I will tell you, it supports the way that I coach my clients to do social media wholeheartedly, because the funny thing is, it wasn't the book coaching advice that first got me quote unquote viral on TikTok. I was starting to slowly get some traction after about 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And this was early. This was when Gen X started taking over and we were really making the young kids mad, like 2020. So when that started happening, it was a good time. So a lot of the reason for my virality on TikTok really was a lot in luck and happenstance. To be honest, it was. Mm-hmm. But it was a video that I posted to Beyonce or Destiny's Child, whichever, Survivor.
Yeah.
And it was a trend at the time, and it was talking about all the things that you'd survived, and you put it on the screen. And I shared my story, which it's nothing all that spectacular, just, divorces and loss of loved ones and things like that. And it had 1 million views and likes. So,
wow.
And that in it is in it's why I teach my clients the way I do, which is to not come out of the gate pimping your books just right out of the gate.
Right,
That
right.
won't ever work.
I just
It's
had that conversation with someone. I said, make it organic. The minute you try to sell something is a minute you're going to lose
They're going to
everybody.
walk right out that
Is
door.
that true?
Absolutely. And I don't mind giving this little tidbit out. So what you do is you're going to want to, again, we talked about how you got to find your audience, not just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. You got to find your audience. And when you find them, you learn how they talk to each other, words and slang they use, little hashtags they use, all the things. You're going to spend time getting to know them. And then you put out content on a schedule that is what they're looking for outside of your book. For example, I write crime fiction. So I will put out on my author account, I will put out content that's like, here's a true crime story of the week. And I'll do that for several days. And then slowly I'll start sprinkling in mentions of like, yeah, this story came to mind when I wrote Like Father, Like Daughter, my most popular book to date, hint, hint, and just kind of sprinkle little mentions of your book, gradually growing that interest. After a week or two, if you get a comment or a message that says, oh, you wrote a book? I didn't know you wrote a book. Where can I get your book? That's when you've hit gold. That's when you know
Right.
you're doing it right.
And you can use their comment to make the next video say, hey, they just asked this question. Here's where you can get it.
Exactly. That's exactly. I mean, you just keep going. And that is a
Right.
very good social media tip is never leave a comment unanswered.
Yeah.
Never leave a DM unanswered. Even the negative ones, send them back love, whatever you need to do, because that boosts you on the FYP every single
Okay.
time.
I love that. I always say I'm gonna pray for you when it's a negative comment. I'm gonna pray for
I have
you.
to breathe, and then I say something similar to that. But
Right. Right. All right. We love this conversation. We could go on and on. I definitely want people to dive into your website, to use your business and support your business and help them get supported as well, so they could become a best-selling author or somebody monetizing off of their fruits. But I do want to bring us into our game called Fast Four. Are you ready to play?
I don't think I have a choice, do I?
You don't. So Fast Four is where we ask you 4 questions back to back. You can answer them with one word or a whole paragraph. You can give a dissertation if you want to. You're an author, so you might. But we're going to go ahead and jump into it right now. So let's go with number 1. What is the most memorable writing session or book project that you have worked on recently?
Recently, that's a good one because I've been behind on my writing a little bit. But I would have to say it's my favorite manuscript I've written so far, which is the one I'm working on now. And it is, I don't mind sharing, it is called Hell for Certain. And that's an actual town in Kentucky. So actually,
Wait. The town is called Hell or Hell
Hell
for Certain?
for Certain, Kentucky. It's a real town in Kentucky.
Population. 6.
I think
I'm
100,
just
if
kidding.
that. It's an honest to God town. And so it's in Eastern Kentucky, obviously.
Right. Obviously.
But it's just coming up with that title and then building a story around that was pretty darn awesome.
I can imagine. We can't wait for it to come out. Next question. What is a book that when you recommend somebody to read that jumps out on your mind first?
It has to be the one I mentioned earlier, especially to fit with our topic of the day, which is On Writing by Stephen King.
Okay.
It should be your Bible. And that goes for whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. It is half autobiographical, and then the other half is he moves into how he became the best-selling author that he is. It is unputdownable. It's a great book. And plus it's short. It's easy.
I like unputdownable. I like that. I'll use that. My go-to is always Richest Man in Babylon because it gives you all the life lessons.
I have not read that.
Yeah, right. You had to put that on the list. That's one of those ones you will
in
not
Babylon.
forget. Right.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Next question. What is the best way to get your artwork done for your book cover?
Hire a professional. So look on social media, preferably Facebook groups or something. Or Instagram. That's a good place to look for service providers. But you don't want to do it yourself. Please don't do it yourself. While they say don't judge a book by its cover, unfortunately, people do. And unless you are both a graphic designer and someone experienced in creating book covers, you're going to fall flat on your face. So hire a professional cover designer. There are plenty out there who charge just a couple $100 for all the files you need.
Amazing. Last question. If I think I know the answer to this, judging based on the book you just recommended. If you could co-write with any author ever, living or not here, who would it be?
It actually wouldn't be Stephen King. I'd be too darn intimidated. I think I would just wet my pants or something. No, it would most likely be Karen Slaughter. She writes in my genre. She writes a lot of really great crime fiction.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with Karen Slaughter.
All right. Well, if you did Stephen King, though, you'll probably get a movie deal, too.
I mean, there is that.
We'll go with Karen Slaughter. Maybe you'll get like an SVU spinoff or something.
Hey, there you go. I like it.
We appreciate you once again, Christina Kaye, coming on the show, talking to us about books, marketing, publishing, and everything in between. She is at your disposal on her website. Make sure that you check it out. Check her out on TikTok. She has some great videos, great content there, and we just can't wait to be a part of your trend and your family. We appreciate you joining us and our listenership here on Reach Radio.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
No problem. If you guys are looking for her website, check it out in the comments below and you'll see it. Shout out to AB for making sure that we keep track record on there. We're going to get back to this music on the radio side, on the streaming side. You guys stay tuned. We got some news breaks on the way and everything in between. This is Reach Radio, Reach Talkcast, broadcast live from Media Campus West. We gone.